Hey folks, welcome back to another Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Shugo, which is brought to you by Insane Fun Games. It's for 2 to 4 players, ages 7 and up, and games generally run about 15 to 25 minutes. Shugo is a card game of battles and reactions. The main objective is to conquer a straight line of 5 quadrants, horizontal, vertical, or diagonal, using warrior cards from the deck of your chosen faction. Those who dominate the main battlefield dominate the battle. The first player to fulfill a straight line with 5 warrior cards wins. If the whole battleground is filled without a winner, then the battle ends in a draw. Each player will choose a faction deck. My favorite, which I will probably be focusing on this video, is the Skull faction, the Undead. Relentless warriors with bloodthirsty souls who want to dominate the battlefield. The focus of this deck is resilience and conversion of enemy troops. The Spear faction, which is Amazons, the aggressive female warriors of legend, second to none on the battlefield. The focus of this deck is attack and destruction of enemy troops. Then we have the Shield faction, which is Knights, protective warriors of honor, driven fighters who have devoted themselves to conquer the battlefield. The focus of this deck is endurance and protection of their troops. Then we have the Spark faction, Wizards, strategic warriors of wisdom and cunning. They see themselves as the true regents of the battlefield. The focus of this deck is flexibility and alteration of the battlefield. Each player will also receive 3 reaction cards that go with your main deck, 2 nullify cards and 1 obliteration. And there's also a couple other factions, fairies and shifters, but in this prototype I just have the main 4. All of these factions have unique abilities and powers. We won't be doing a deep dive into all the abilities, but I will give you a couple examples along the way. So choose your factions wisely, and regardless of what faction you choose, your end goal here always remains the same: 5 warriors in a row. So gameplay here is super straightforward. At the top of your turn, you're drawing a card. Now you would think typically, right, that having more cards is a good thing? Potentially, but at the end of your turn, if you have more than 5 cards, you have to discard, and your discard pile is considered a destroyed pile. Now, you might have cards that will allow you to go rescue a card from there, but in general, that deck runs out. And if you ever completely run out of your faction deck when you need to draw, well, boom, you're out of the game. So after you've drawn your card at the top of your turn, well, now it's time to play a card. And you have a couple different options here. You've got warrior cards and you've got tactic cards. And in general, based on the faction you're playing, they're going to do all kinds of various things. And really the goal here again is to get your 5 in a row, so be it vertical, horizontal, or diagonal. But the thing is that you're going to be manipulating the other players a lot to take that. So you're going to be eliminating warriors, you're going to be eliminating cards, you're going to be changing up the battlefield, pushing other warriors around, putting things in the position where you need them to achieve your goal of winning the game. So depending on the faction that you're playing, it will really change up how you play. So the different types of warriors that you're going to be playing, you've got standard soldiers who are just there to hold the line. They don't have any special abilities, but you do have captains who are there to bring morale to the soldiers, really. They have all special abilities, they're going to do various things. And then you have your generals who bring the power to the battlefield. So those are the 3 different types, but again, you're just trying to get that 5 in a row. And your tactic cards are going to be augmenting what you're doing with your warriors. Really nice. But now you also have some reactionary cards. So every time you play a card, that's considered an action. And your opponents can play reactionary cards, things like nullify, stopping you from playing that card, or you can then in turn play another nullify, canceling theirs back and forth. So there is one card though, obliteration, that will just completely annihilate what you're trying to do. There's no stopping that card. So it really adds to the dynamic of the game, and obviously lots of fast play happening here for sure. So, and those cards, those reactionary cards are very limited. You're only going to get 2 nullify and 1 obliteration per game. So let's take a closer look at this Undead deck and some of its options. You have your warriors, right? So you've got skeletons, who are your basic soldiers, who are just simply that. And then you have vampires though. These are your captains. And I think the vampire might be my favorite card, because vampire comes out and then you can convert one of your opponent's either soldiers or their captains to one of your skeletons. So basically changing them after biting them, I'm assuming, into those skeletons. A great way to spawn more warriors. Now you ultimately have your Death Knight, who is truly spawning skeletons. You'll put him into play, and then you'll add another warrior with him next to him. And at the top of your turn then, before you draw cards, you get to put another skeleton into play. So he really does spawn skeletons and allowing you to get them out quicker. So trying to stop the undead, there's a lot of different ways, obviously, but you really have to optimize what you're doing with your decks and how you use those tactic cards. So let's take a look at the tactic cards. The Open Grave tactic card will allow you to go to your discard pile and pull a skeleton and put it into play. It's that simple. And then you have a Desecrate card. Now this card actually comes out and lives on the battlefield, and it can just basically hold a spot for you until you decide to play a warrior there. But also your opponent can destroy that card, but it does come with sacrifice. They'll have to sacrifice one of their warriors, which then will destroy the card, but you still get to put one of your skeletons out there. So some interesting trade-offs with that card for sure. And then we have Sacrifice. Sacrifice just simply forces your opponent to remove one of their warriors. And then finally, we have the Blood Oath. Now this card is so powerful, and in general, as you can expect, as these cards get more and more powerful, there's less and less of them in the deck. So you really need to play them at strategic times. Now, this Blood Oath card will come out and allow you to basically replace 3 of their warriors with 3 of your skeletons. So you'll want to use that maybe for a finishing move. So as you can imagine, these games move very quickly. There's a ton of back and forth. Again, lots of take that, removing cards, moving cards around, lots of interesting options that can happen. But the fast play is key because we get through a game, you just play again. But ultimately, folks, the thing here is that you want to get 5 in a row. All right, folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form, so keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now, with that said, I really like the fact that there's several different types of factions, and they all play very, very differently. So it's interesting to see how they team up between the different, and especially the undead, which, again, I really, really enjoyed. And I can see how some of those others, like the Amazons, can really just start to eliminate my warriors, or the undead warriors, I should say. So there's some really interesting choices with those decks and how you combine and mix and match. And there's also like team games here where you can team up with multiple factions in play. So that just adds a ton of fun for sure. But folks, ultimately, if this looks like something of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it for me. And until next time, we'll see you at the table.